Batter up.
Brian and Krysz, they're on the air. Yankees, Mets, they're everywhere. From the Bronx to Queens, the diamond gleams. MLB talk, the ultimate team. MLB is the place to be. Brian and Krysz with the pitch you'll see. Swinging stacks and stories fly. Baseball talk that's amplified.
And welcome to a new episode of NY MLB Talk with your host, Rob and Chris, as we cover the Mets, Yankees, and all of Major League Baseball. And if you're on YouTube right now, if you can hit that sub button, that would be great. And that like button as well. And if you want to follow us on Twitter/X or on TikTok, it's at NYMLB Talk. And you can follow Rob at R Maraska and myself at CP7NY. So, Rob, what's up? We have a really special guest. I can't wait to talk to him. Bring him on.
Yeah, we have. Listen, guys, if you ever fantasized about going to a baseball fantasy camp, we have the guy for you. Our guest, Brian Krysz, has been to 19 Mets and also a Washington Nationals full and mini camps. So he's going to tell us what the experience is like, what goes on in those camps, and if you're interested in going, you know, he'll give you all the info. So Brian, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So you've been to 19 full and mini camps. Could you tell us about that? And you know, what's the difference between a full and mini camp?
Well, the full camps now, for the Mets at least, are 8 games over a full week. And the mini camp, it's 5 games, but if you play in the championship game, you get to play a 6th. And it's more like a 4-day thing. My first camp was in 2007, back when I could still really hit and run. But it wasn't run by the Mets. But the cool thing about it was I got a chance to play at Shea. And my dad got to see me play at Shea, and I got a base hit, and I caught a fly ball where Cleon caught the final out in the '69 World Series. So my dad was thrilled with that. And then this past year, I got to play at City, and I got 3 or 4 hits there. So it's kind of cool. I got to play at both the Mets stadiums.
So how did you get involved? Like, what made you want to go to a fantasy camp? Your first one. Why don't you talk about that and let us know how you got to go to your first fantasy camp?
Well, I was always a big fan of the Mets. I mean, I named my children after my favorite 2 sports team. My son is Matthew Edmund Thomas, and he took Stephen, which obviously it's Mets. And my daughter's Bridget, Jet for the Jets. So, I've had a satellite dish when I lived in other states to catch every game. And I tend to watch every game, even to this day. If not, I tape them and I watch the replays. So I had a chance to go in 2007 before I retired. And I thought it was just going to be a one-shot thing. And I wish I could tell you, but I don't remember why I went in 2019. But I did. And I think the coolest thing about baseball is it's the most forgiving sport. I mean, last year I had great tournaments in Port St. Lucie, Syracuse, and Citi Field, and then I couldn't hit it all at the big camp, and I was very discouraged. But I pitched well, and I pitched a complete game, and I got a win in another one. So I didn't give up, but I was just very discouraged. But then I came back and I hit 380 in the Nationals camp, so I guess I'm back for the duration. My goal is to try to go as long as the oldest person who ever played at fantasy camp is. And right now it's 81, I believe, but we'll see.
Oh, you'll get that. You'll get that with no problem.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
No, the one that you did at Shea, that wasn't in like at the time that they do them now, right? In February. That must have been during the spring, maybe?
No, it was in January.
Oh, wow. How was the weather?
No, we didn't play at Shea in January. What it was, they have a reunion. And in the old days, you would get to go get introduced on the field, which they still do, before a game. And then you could go and you could have a game. Everybody from the camps got to play throughout the whole day at Shea. And that was the opportunity. And people could come and watch you. And so it was pretty cool. And then they were doing it at City Field, but the 2 years when I first came, they were rained out, and they've never done the City Field again. So it was really cool that they introduced the City Field mini camp, the inaugural one, back in the beginning of September last year.
That's great. So tell us about the people that you meet at these fantasy camps. Do you become close friends with them? What is it like being teammates?
Well, the interesting thing is, I'd say of all the camps, I've had the same teammate maybe 3 times, on my teams. So you get to meet everybody. And the one thing that I love about it is that everybody roots for each other. I mean, no one is out there. I mean, there are people who don't get a hit the whole camp, and we pray that they get a hit. You know what I mean? And we celebrate if they get a hit. I mean, that's the most fun thing to see, when somebody gets a hit, because there are people who are very good players. There are people who are okay players. There are people who hadn't played in years and didn't work out, and they find out the hard way by getting injured. And then there are people who get better, and I've gotten better. And I think the thing about baseball is twofold. It's a forgiving game. You could have a terrible or great day one day and a terrible or great day the following day. So there's always another game. And the other thing is that if you practice, like I throw better now than I did in high school,
Wow.
and I catch 90% of the time unless they need me to pitch. So I practice, I hit off the tee, I go to the cages, I have guys I throw with, but I think that the most important thing that I've gotten out of it was all the guys I grew up with act like they're 100 years old. If I go back to see them, nobody wants to go out and do anything, so I don't see
Yeah.
them. But I have friends now that I never would have had. I have people that I could call, and I have a problem. There's 50 lawyers I could call. There's 50 doctors. I have a problem with my foot the other day. One of the players was a retired podiatrist. He looked at my foot and he said, "Yeah, don't wear the turf shoes. That's going to cause a problem for you." But I mean, I've called them for medical advice. I've called them for law advice. A great story a couple of years ago, I guess it was my second or third camp. I don't drink anymore. And I would go and sit with the guys, and there's beer in the locker. There's beer and drinks afterwards. There's beer at all the events and hard liquor. And, one of the guys he felt like I was left out. So the next year I go to camp and I have a FedEx package waiting for me. I'm like, who would send me this? His name's Tony Luparello. He's a great player, by the way. Can hit, pitch, and everything. Budweiser Zero. A 12-pack of that was waiting so I could go and sit with the guys and drink. Who would think to do that? You know what I mean?
Now that's pretty cool. That sounds pretty cool. So let's get into a couple of, why don't you tell us a couple of players who were instructors there or managers of the teams that you played on? What guys have you met? What Mets have you met?
Well, I mean, I got a long list, so I don't miss anybody. Going back to 2007, I had Ron Hodges. Felix Millan was there until a couple of years ago. Swoboda's still there. Butch Husky, Willie Montañez, John Stearns before he passed away, Jerry Grody, Duffy Dyer, Kevin Baez, Bill Pulsifer, Heath Bell. He's a great guy. Eric Hillman, Joel Youngblood, Wally Backman, Mike Hampton, Dwight Gooden. Doc comes and sits, and he, will sit. He'll watch you play, and then he'll sit in the lunchroom, and he's got the greatest stories. He's a wonderful guy. Steve Traxel, Nelson Figueroa, Todd Pratt, Todd Zeal, Joe Pignatano, Buzz Capra, Mookie Wilson, and I'm sure I left some people out. Turk Wendell, but Turk was our manager when we won the championship. And he's kind of an interesting guy because he doesn't drink, and he's a hunter. And he busts chops on the opposing team to the point where some of these guys get rattled and they can't pitch, or they'll strike out. And he's on them nonstop. If you're not on his team, it's funny. But if you're on his team, it's funny. But if you're not, it's not a lot of fun.
Good.
Plus,
Go ahead,
and in the Nationals camp, we had Ryan Zimmerman and Brian Snyder were our coaches, and we were 6-0, and we lost in the championship game. But Zim helped me with my hitting. I mean,
That's great.
I'm such a dead pull hitter that they moved the shortstop next to the third baseman because I hit everything down there. And he showed me what I was doing wrong. And I wound up hitting a couple of hits to center field over shortstop that I'd never done. I'd had to hug the line to get a double, or I had to really pound one over somebody's head to left field. But now it's stuff I'm going to work on until April, to make sure I can do it, go the opposite way. And it was very simple what he showed me, but it was helpful. But, they also had, Tyler Clippard, Drew Storen, Brian Dozier, Jan Gomes, Doug Flynn. They had a bunch of guys at the Nationals camp, and they were all great guys. And what's interesting about them is that they're all younger guys. When you go to the Mets camp, most of them are veterans who've been doing it for years. And you don't really get a guy who's 1 or 2 years, and they have a different perspective. So it was really cool and a different experience having the young guys talking about stuff.
Now, how did you end up going? I mean, you're a big Mets fan. How did you end up going to a Washington Nationals fantasy camp?
Well, it's pretty simple. I mean, they wanted me to go, but I had already signed up for 5 camps this year. And I was like, I'm spending $45,000, $50,000 doing this, but they needed a guy. They were short a couple of guys. And Doug Dickey, who does a tremendous job with the Mets, and Kyle, they called me and said, hey, look, we really need you, and I live 15 minutes from the stadium, and I was feeling better because I had some medical complications, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to play. The medications I take is kind of funny. If I try to throw the ball straight, it goes like 10 feet to the right until it's out of my system. So I wasn't sure I was going to be ready to play, but I went out and practiced a couple of days, and I said, what the heck? I don't have to pay for a hotel. I don't have to pay for airfare. I don't have to pay for a car. And, I know a bunch of the guys because a lot of the Met guys did it because they had experienced the Met camp with Doug Dickey before. So that's kind of the way I wound up, and I was blessed to be on Zim's team. We had some great players. An interesting thing about our team was the Lawn Chair Legends was our team with Zimmerman and Snyder. We were really solid 1 through 9. I mean, we'd go down 5 or 6 runs and we'd always come back and win. But there's a interesting thing about camp is, like I said, there are people who come who have never played the game, who just wanted to go with their father, or if father wanted to go with their son. And we had a father-son combo on our team, the Riggs guys, and Darren Riggs and Christian. And Christian had never played organized ball. He didn't know anything about the game, really, other than watching it on television. He wound up hitting 500 and played a fantastic center field. But the coolest thing, and it may have happened before, it didn't happen on my team. One of the games, the father knocked in Christian, his son, for the winning run. So that's an experience. I mean, there's a lot of father, son, and brothers and combinations, but I thought that was really cool.
Do the players, I know they're instructors, but do they ever play in the game at all, or is it just coaching?
Well, it depends. If you choose to, if a team gives up 6 runs in an inning, you have the option to let the coach pitch. We did play a game. We'd already won the, we already got the bye the first round. So we had a game where Zim and Snyder played for us, and the opposing team had their guys play for them, and it was kind of cool. Zimmerman hit a shot that must have been up in the air to center field for about 5 minutes. I mean, it was a major league pop, Some teams got injuries and they had to have a coach fill in. But what they like to try to do is, put him in right field. He doesn't hit, because that would be unfair. We had an instance where Preston Wilson wound up playing first base and made several fantastic plays. And, the opposing team was not very happy about it. They played the game under protest. So, But now they wound up, they're the team that we wound up playing and lost to in the championship. But I'm sorry, that's not true. But they had a protest over Preston Wilson playing first base because he's making plays nobody would.
But that's
but
pretty
it doesn't
cool.
happen that much because normally in Mets camp we have 2 weeks, and there are, I'd say, 150 players each week. So you normally have 10 or 11 guys. You don't really want more than that. But there's always an injury or two. And I learned a long time ago, most injuries are when you swing the bat and that's first step out of the batter's box when you pull your hamstring. So I always make sure I get loose, because that's one injury I don't want. I also cover myself since I catch, in atomic bomb, and icy hot. So, I could do an icy hot commercial. I mean, I have it all over my legs. I just wrapped a high school basketball game. But so anyway, I may have gone on a tangent and not answered your question, but
that's okay. No, you answered it for Chris. I got a question about the uniforms and the numbers. When you get to camp, how do they assign you a number?
No, you get to pick your number and the size of your uniform. Like I have my Mets stuff since 6 years ago, but then they changed from the blue away jerseys, so I had to get the gray jersey. And then last year they switched the gray jersey, but I didn't get a new one. So you tell them your size, you tell them if you want pants, you tell them the number you want, and there'll be sometimes you'll have 2 guys on your team. I was so late this year signing up, I had a defective Nationals jersey where they put the wrong name on it. So I didn't care though. But yeah, you get to pick, and the Mets camp you wear home and away, and the mini camps you wear, like in Syracuse. I have a Syracuse jersey. I have a Port St. Lucie jersey. I have Citi Field. We got the Mets batting practice hats. When we go to Syracuse and we go to Port St. Lucie, every year we get a different hat. I have like a black Syracuse hat, a blue Syracuse hat, an orange Syracuse hat. Port St. Lucie, I get many different, types of hats, whatever the hat of the year is for spring training. The Nationals camp, what they did was they had, you could order the home jersey, and they gave the away, they did T-shirts with your name and number on it. And those are the ones you would use when they have like a tryout the first day, so the teams can be drafted by the coaches.
Oh, okay.
So they got my name and number right on that. But I'm getting in the batting cage with Zim and Snyder, and they told me afterwards, they're like, who is this guy getting in the cage? He's not on our team, because I had the name on my jersey, which was, it was not my name. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, I mean, the Nationals, they did it, but this is their first year. I'm sure they're going to graduate to doing home and away uniforms. And, I thought it was an excellent camp considering it was their first. But the guy running it, he's been doing it 15 years, I think. So it was really good because of that. A typical week, has some really interesting and fun things. In the Mets camp, we go on Sunday for the full week, and we have kind of a tryout. You hit, you field, infield, you outfield, you pitch. But I just tell them I'm catching, so they know to put me on it just as a catcher, unless I'm going to pitch. And I usually only get to pitch when the great pitchers blow their arm out on day 1 or 2 because they still think they're 18 and forget that they're not, But sometimes it's dangerous even doing the tryouts. A couple of years ago, sometimes they'll hit you fly balls in the outfield, but they also use the gun. And this poor guy, first ball out of the gun, he missed it, 19 stitches in his face. But I got to give him credit. He went to the dentist. They stitched him up, and he came back and played in the first game in the afternoon.
That's dedication
right
there. Yep. Every season he has a Mets fan skip in your head. I think that's a different kind of camp there, Joe.
Yeah.
It's a little more competitive. The week 1 guys are a little different from the week 2 guys. The week 2 guys tend to root for each other a little more. The week 1 guys are a little more cutthroat. And I don't think they'd be offended by me saying that, but they are. So I like week 2. I mean, we call it the fun fun group, the fun guys. So anyway, they'll have the tryouts, and then they'll go and have a draft. And what they usually do is pick the pitchers they know who can pitch first. And in the Mets camp, they know 85, 90% of the players, so it's pretty easy. But instead of being able to pick your own team, they pick the teams. They'll pick the pitchers first, then they'll pick the catchers, and then they'll pick the batters. And then the coaches will put the names in a hat, and they draw a team. So they're not really picking their team. But together as a group, they assign what they've seen, as the better players to, in a fair way. Then the first night we have the welcome dinner, and then they show us the hardware. And I got to tell you, I have never seen such great hardware. I mean, it literally looks like it's a major league award. If you get a team MVP, but there's Tom Seaver Award, a Gary Carter Award, batting average award, a Rookie of the Year award. And these are things that are like 5 feet tall.
Wow.
I mean, you can't put it in your bag to take it home. They got to FedEx it to you.
They got FedEx.
So then they announce the teams. And then we go and we play 2 games the next day. And that first night, it's a get to know you thing. So you go out with your teams and your coaches for a dinner. And that's when you really get to, understand each other, and form somewhat of a bond. And then Tuesday, you have 2 more games. In the morning, they have a morning meeting. And on the Tuesday meeting, they have a gold rope for someone who was the most outstanding player from the previous day, and the brown rope for someone who did something stupid. And the brown rope, no offense to you Yankee fans, you got to wear the Yankee hat and you get the brown rope, and you got it for the day. And they also read out stats, for who has done, the best from the previous day, which is always amazing to hear. Some of these guys hit 800, drive in 14 runs. It's just amazing. I mean, some of these guys, there are guys that are just flat out good, like Phil Foreman and Dan Squirrel, Gould, the Mizell, Jeff On, these guys are just top-notch players. And I know I'm going to leave guys out, but I can't mention everybody. So what happens is then I should go back to the draft, because this is kind of an interesting story. Now, I went in 2007 not knowing what to expect. In 2019, I really didn't know what to expect. And they're announcing the teams, and they announce my team. And the first 2 people they announce are Jennifer Hughes and Lori Brenneman. And I'm like, I have 2 women on my team. We're going to get destroyed. Well, guess what? We played and lost in the championship game. Those women were phenomenal. I mean, they could hit, they could run, they could play the field. It was really amazing to see them play. And they're there occasionally, back and forth. There was a really good player in the Nationals camp who was a woman. And I wish I could tell you her name. I don't remember it. And I'm sorry, but she wasn't on my team. And, I would love to acknowledge her. But I think it's Joanne Rucker, but I could be wrong. Anyway, so then Tuesday night, let me just check and see, because it was a little different in the Nationals camp. In the Nationals camp, we had a bull session, which was really cool. And the younger guys had different stories from the Met guys. And they had some great stuff. And Tyler Clippard does a great Harry Carey imitation. And the stories were so different from the old school players. So it was really refreshing. And Zimmerman was the judge, and Doug Flynn was one of the judges. And they fine you for doing stupid things. Like I got fined 3 times because I didn't have any national stuff. So I wore my Met stuff when I got there. And I wore my Met stuff in the locker room. So I got fined 3 times for wearing Met stuff. But
so what would a fine be? What would a fine be?
$50 could be 50.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
and the money goes, well, I paid 100 a couple of times, but the money goes to like the Nationals. They have their philanthropy charities, but the Mets have Hope for the Warriors Fund. And I think we raised like $45,000. Maybe it was more than that in the last Mets camp, just from fantasy camp and casino night. And then the next day we had in Mets camp, we have a kangaroo court as well. And again, you're fined for various stupid things like putting your shin guards on wrong or wearing them to the plate, running out without your hat to the field, running out with your batting helmet on, just silly things. But, it's going for a good cause. So everybody roars and laughs, and they have video and pictures of it. So you can't really fight it. I mean, there's evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
but
got
that's
fined once.
pretty cool.
I got fined once. It was so cold. This was when they had it in January for the Mets. It's now been in November the last couple of years, which I prefer. January sky is extremely hard down here to see the ball, even on throws to first. But it was so cold. It was like 30 degrees, and I put on a Jets woolen cap and I had my Mets leather jacket. It was so cold. When I went out to the field, someone who's in the dugout grabbed my leather jacket to put on. But I got fined for wearing the Jets woolen cap, in the dugout. But I didn't care. I wanted to be warm. It was worth whatever I had to pay for it.
She'd get fined anyway for wearing it.
Yeah, I do. I mean, you want to be fined because it's for a good cause, but it makes it more entertaining. And they find you doing stuff that you never even thought.
It sounds like a lot of fun. It does. Chris, do you have anything you want to ask?
Did you see any celebrities outside of baseball come to these fantasy camps?
Well, yeah. Jim Brewer, who's a comedian, he goes to week 1 normally. He was in week 2 with me once, but he's an excellent pitcher. And he's a big Met fan.
Yeah, he's a big Mets fan.
The cool thing was at the Mets mini camp, I got to meet Stearns, and we had a question and answer thing. And I told him, I said, this is September. I said, you really need to double deck the Mets starters, Minaya and Holmes, or McGill and, Blackburn. And, he said, that's an interesting thing. And he said, but you're going to have to tell them they're doing that. And I said, I'll be happy to tell them. I don't care. And what did he do a couple of weeks later? He started double stacking the 2 starters. So I don't know if it was me but I have it on video asking the question. So I have proof that I did ask him and that he did answer me. So, and then I was at the Nationals camp, which was really cool. Mr. Lerner, who owns the team.
Yeah.
He sat in the lunchroom every day talking to people. And he went and he watched us play. He watched the entire championship game. And, that to me was tremendous. I mean, he took such an interest. And the clubhouse guys were telling me when he was younger, he used to go and shag flies and take batting practice with the team. But I thought that was neat. And then like Sean Landetta was in town. He came over to watch us play. Eric Bloom from Blue Oyster Cult, he came by and watched us play. I guess Matt Blitt, all he does is hit. He's his representative, is his attorney. So he comes by to see him and watches us. But the celebrities are really, the players. Steve Craxton and Mike Hampton. When I was playing in the championship game, they sent me a text, go get him. Way to go. I mean, who would have thought that they'd even think to care, to even look at it? You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the kind of thing it is.
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that Mike Hampton actually was at the fantasy camp too, what was he, a coach or an instructor?
Yeah, he was a coach.
Okay.
We have 2 coaches on each team in the big camp and 1 coach on each team in the mini camps. So they come in for that. And they all there's like 22 coaches that come in for this.
Wow.
And they love it. Thing. But they love it because the camaraderie of they're missing from when they played. I mean, Mike Hampton doesn't need the money. You know what I mean?
Of course not.
Heath Bell doesn't need the money. Doc Gooden doesn't need the money. They just enjoy participating, And Ryan Zimmerman doesn't need the money. You know what I mean? I'm sure Tyler Clippard doesn't need the money.
I know what you're saying about the camaraderie, because when they come on, when we have ex-players come on the show, they're great. They love to talk and they tell their stories, and it's just, for that hour, it's, it seems like that's the same thing where they come out there and it's back to their playing days, right? Where, they could tell their stories, and it just sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Well, we have a Jobu locker. We had it at the Nationals one, but we have it at the Mets one every year, and it's filled with booze. And at the end of the day, before we get in the, if we get work done or whatever, we sit around the coaches and they tell stories that they would never tell if they were on the radio or on television. Just some amazingly stupid stuff. I mean, it's really, really interesting. If I ever had to write a book of stories from fantasy camp, I'd never be allowed back, because, the things that these guys did and got away with is just amazing. And it's so much fun, and they're like your friends. Jeff Innes, before he passed away, he and I got to be really good friends. There are people that get excited to see you, or you're excited to see them, and you only see them once a year,
That's great.
Speaking of which, it's a really complete experience. All you have to do is bring your jock, your spikes, and your glove, and a bat if you care. Everything else is there. The clubhouse guys take care of you. They're wonderful. Mully is great, for the Mets camps. And when we go to Syracuse or Port St. Lucie, the guys who run their clubhouses, they're our guys. And, they'll shine your shoes for you if you want. They'll oil your glove. I broke my mask. They gave me a mask. I broke my catcher's helmet. They gave me a catcher's helmet to wear. Anything I needed. I was cold in Syracuse last year. They gave me I didn't think it was going to be cold. They gave me a long sleeve shirt to wear. So they really want you to, as a matter of fact, I will say this. I joined so late. Doug said, you got to get your own pants. And I'm like, all right. So I went to Amazon and I ordered the white pants with red stripe. The first pair and the second pair said was out for delivery, never came. The third pair came wrong. So I called the Mets clubhouse guy and I said, can you help me? Because I can't play. They don't want me to wear gray. So he sent Edgardo Alfonso's pants down for me to use if I needed them. But they did find a pair of pants for me with the Nationals colors. So
I got a question about the food and everything. How does the eating and that stuff work in fantasy?
Oh, you got to be if you're a rookie, you can really screw that up because the food's for the most part really good. But it's heavy. So breakfast in Port St. Lucie and in in Mets Big Camp, they actually have chefs cooking breakfast, lunch, and if there's a dinner that's at the ballpark for the bull session or the kangaroo court, they serve you, and it's very good. But I don't want to eat hot dogs and hamburgers and sausage and fajitas and stuff for lunch and then go out and play. The rookies will make that mistake. You know what I mean? Breakfast also, I don't want to eat, bacon and eggs and scrapple and hash browns. You know what I mean? So I have a little fruit and yogurt, but they take care of you. And you have the stuff that the major league guys have for the most part, as far as snacks, as far as water, Gatorade, Dunkin' Donuts, iced coffee. Like I said, they have beers in the clubhouse. So they have like Michelob Ultra. It depends. Dos Equis, whatever, but they really treat you. If I have something I need, they can usually, like I broke my bat. 2 camps in a row, I broke a bat, and the Nationals had bats, and I've been using a 32, and again, I was way out in front. So Zim said, you should try the 33. And then he showed me what to do. And they had a couple of 33 bats, and they were great. I barely strike out. I may not be a great hitter, but I always put the ball in play. And, man, when I got that bat and Zim's recommendations, I was hitting great. And I found out at the end of camp, they said, none of the minor league guys want the camps, and obviously the major leaguers don't. So if you see a bat you like, take it. So I grabbed the one that I was hitting with, which was kind of cool. But yeah, I think that also I need to talk about the trainers.
Yeah.
I had plantar fasciitis so bad and that I couldn't run the first couple of days. They had to have a runner for me out of the box. And then the trainers came up with this contraption. It was almost like a cast that relieved the pressure. The last day I was able to run. And then I wore that mini cast for the next 3 weeks. You know, they ice your shoulder. They have a hot tub. They have an ice tub. You know, they'll give you a rub down. You know, if you have an injury that's not really bad, they'll get you on the field. You know, and it was the same with the Nationals camp. Only a couple of guys were out, you know, that couldn't play the rest of the week.
It sounds like they really give you the major league experience with everything from the food to the trainers to, you know, to the awards to everything. It just seems like everything is first class and major league.
Right. Well, I also like the mini camps, and I will tell you this. I mean, it's a shorter week, but, and again, I don't want to offend anybody, so please don't be offended. What happens is most of the better players want to go to the mini camps. So where in the big camp, you know, you're going to have 3 or 4 really good players, 3 or 4 okay players, and 1 or 2 guys that can't play at all. In the mini camp, you got 9 guys. You don't have a weak right fielder or a weak second baseman. You know what I mean? So I like to pitch in the mini camps because they make all the plays. I mean, I throw about 30 miles an hour, so they're hitting it, you know, but it's a lot more fun when they're fielding behind you. You know what I mean? So that's a lot of fun. Right now, I'm going to go to the Port St. Lucie camp. I'm going to, as a free agent here, they're having a camp in Hardball 360 where I'm going to go in the 55 and over. And, you know, I'm just going to use it as, you know, spring training for myself. I kind of looked at the Nationals thing as spring training, but, you know, it was so much fun and we were so competitive that went out of my mind. And another interesting thing, when you get to play on the minor league big field that the major leaguers play, or you get to play at Citi Field, it's wonderful for the first 5 minutes. And then you're playing baseball. You don't even know where you are. I mean, I thought it was ironic that I wanted to play so badly at Citi Field. And once I'm catching, I could have been, you know, anywhere, you know. So it's really interesting. So I'm going to do the Hardball 360, Port St. Lucie, Syracuse, Citi Field camp again, and then the big camp in November. They may have to move it because the Mets are redoing their entire minor league complex. So we probably won't get to play there this year. And then they're talking about doing maybe Brooklyn at some point and even a Dominican Republic camp. So as long as I can play, cool. And God willing, I'll be able to for a few more years, I'm going to do it, you know.
Go for
it. The park in Coney Island's pretty nice too. So
the turf is tough to play on though, especially in the heat. Okay. I mean, in Syracuse last year, like I said, I bathed myself in the atomic bomb and icy hot, and we were playing a game at noon, and it was like 90 degrees, and that was a mistake. I mean, I was literally on fire. They had to get ice towels to wipe it off me. It was so difficult and painful. But
Brian, who's been your favorite coach player that you've well,
they're all a little different. I mean, Ron Swoboda was my favorite player when I was a kid, but I never wanted to be on his team because he was so tough on his teammates. But then when he was great. And one cool thing is when in November, my dad, it's his birthday, and he's 92 and watches every inning of every Mets game. So I have the players call him to wish happy birthday. Swoboda did, Wally Backman did, Hojo did, you know. So that's one cool thing. Turk Wendell's a great guy to play for. Buzz Capper was a great guy to play for. Heath Bell was a great guy to play for. You know, it's hard for me to say, you know, but there's guys like Rafael Santana you play for, Kevin Baez I played for, Mackie Sasser was great. You know, and again, I mean, I could probably do another 19 camps and not have, you know, 20 of the guys that come to them as my coach ever. You know, there are guys that I've never had on my team, you know, and then there are guys that have been on my team 2 or 3 times. So, you know, it's interesting. But Heath Bell was really cool because he videoed everything we did, and then he put it to music, and he sent it out to us. Nelson Figueroa is great. Figgy's really cool. I had him at Citi Field. But baseball, again, we were champions in Port St. Lucie. We didn't win a game in Syracuse. We played well in Citi Field. We played okay, and then I'm in the championship for the National. So you never know what you're going to get. And I might add, not only do you get a trophy, but if you're in the Mets camp, any of them, and you win a championship, you get a ring. And it has your name on it. It looks a lot like, what a player would get.
Cool.
But the cool thing about it is a couple of years ago, Major League Baseball didn't approve the ring that Doug did for us because it looked too much like a Major League Baseball ring. So.
Okay, we want to switch it up a little bit, and we want to ask you about the current Mets now. We want to know your opinion on the off-season moves so far, Brian.
Well, I was probably like most Met fans disappointed to see Pete go. The Mets just don't have legacy players. I mean, the Yankees have like 30 numbers retired, and most of them play their whole career with the Yankees. Mets have David Wright. Actually, Jeff Innes won all his games as a Met when he was pitching for the Mets. He's the only player in history to win all their games with one team and retire. Or I should say, he pitched in the most games for the team and then retired. Yeah. I guess now I like the moves. I really didn't like to see Pete go. I really didn't think it was necessary. I don't care if he's ranked 49th, in fielding. Most of it was because of the bad throws that he was having problems with. But he's great at scooping the ball, and he has a great attitude. He plays every inning, And Stern said he wanted run prevention. So now we have the only infield, okay, where two of the starters have never played for a team at a different position they never played before since the 1958 Dodgers. They were the last team to have that. So with Bichette playing third and, the guy they got playing first now, and I always forget his name. I don't know why. They're going to, the team's much better. Bichette makes a big difference because he hit 311 last year. He's got a 379 average with runners in scoring position. And that's really what they need in a number 3 hitter. He doesn't have as much power, but, it's kind of hard. I mean, even if you pace the 2 or 3 guys the Mets brought in, they're not going to hit as many home runs or as many RBIs as Pete.
Yeah.
So, I think it was a mistake to let Pete go.
Yeah, well, Polanco's only played 1 inning at first, I think, in Major League. So, I mean, Chris. They said he took a lot of balls at first, right?
Yeah, but he still hasn't played in a Major League game, right? So, but listen, the guy played second, played short, he played a little bit of third, so he's played all over the field, and same thing with Bichette. Bichette's played short. And now he's going to play third for the first time.
Right. Well, we have all in shortstops and second baseman playing in the infield. You know? And then we may have Batty if they put him in left field.
There you go.
But I think Batty and Vientos are going to be the DH platoon, and then they're going to use Batty like they used McNeil last year.
Yeah, I think Beatty's going to be a utility player. I'm pretty sure, and Chris is convinced that Vientos is going to have a comeback year, right, Chris?
Well, he hit well at the end of the year. I'm sorry,
because he was hurt, right? Wasn't he hurt a little bit, and then he came back. He wasn't great, and then he finally settled in. It took him a while, but I think this will be a big year for him if he gets the playing time too. I mean, if these other guys hit, you may not see him, hit that much. So,
well, the thing about it is, we know he can hit. One of the clubhouse guys told me in one of the mini camps that if you think he's the bad third baseman, he's far worse at first. So I don't know where. I think he's going to be primarily a DH, or they got to stick him at first if they need him. But I don't. And then they've got Benji. They're going to give every chance to play left field. I watched him come up through the system last year. I watch a lot of the minor league games, and he was phenomenal at Brooklyn, phenomenal at Binghamton. And then he comes up to Syracuse and he was like 0 for 14. And so I was like, maybe they rushed him. And then he was like 10 for 15 and hit like 5 home runs after that. So they're going to try to get him up there to play.
Do you want to see the Mets add anybody else the rest of the offseason, or you think they're pretty good the way they are?
I mean, I like the pitching move they made. I still think they may have problems in relief, but they signed Craig Kimbrell. And I mean, even if you can get a half a year out of him, the old him, 9 years All-Star, signed him to a minor league contract.
Yeah, it's a low risk signing, so why not? Maybe it's catching lightning in a bottle again for Stearns. Who knows?
Right.
So
that's the one thing. That's the one thing I hate about it, though. I wish that they would put a limit on how many times a guy can go up and down. I'll sign a guy like that Lovelady guy. He pitches 1 inning or 2 innings, then they cut him, and then he comes back to Syracuse. They cut him yesterday, and now he got signed by another team. So right. I mean, but they used 38 pitchers last year.
Yeah,
I'd like to be able to. I remember the days when you had 11, maybe, and they all pitched, and there were 10 on the roster, but you brought one up to pitch. I go back to the old days when pitchers could hit, and I will tell you before I get back to the current Mets, the greatest game I ever saw was a doubleheader in '69. Don Cardwell and Jerry Koosman both pitched 1-0 shutouts, and they both drove in the only run.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
I was also at the Piazza bat game where, Clemens threw the bat at him. Sadly, I was at the 2 losses at Yankee Stadium for that.
Yeah,
I was at that one too.
Yeah. Listen, I
think Jonah Tong's going to be a good pitcher, but I think they rushed him last year.
I think they did
phenomenal in Binghamton, and he pitched okay in Syracuse. But I think he really needs to start the season down there and get a little more, seasoning.
I agree with you. Hey, Brian, listen, his major league debut was at Citi Field pitching against Jacob deGrom. He looked like a deer caught in the headlights, right?
Yeah.
The kid. So it was just, it was just one of those things. But I think he'll be fine. But yeah, I think they should definitely start him in the minor leagues, definitely. And we'll see what happens. But McLean, what do you think about McLean?
I love him. He's got the temperament. And you know what? If you need to have somebody pinch hit, I mean, he's all or nothing. I mean, he was a hitter until he totally transferred to pitching. And he's only been pitching 1.5 years. So can you imagine what he's going to be like? I mean, there was no fear in him at all,
Yeah.
So I think with McLean and, and the new Brewer pitcher, it's funny because a lot of times when I watch Clay Holmes pitch, I'll text with other former Met pitchers who just hate this 4-inning stuff, a lot of them were guys who pitched like 200 innings in the minors before they got to the majors.
Yep.
They were pitching 9 innings in the minors. So they're really frustrated with this. And I guess the new philosophy is that relief pitchers, you pitch the starter to his pitch limit, and then you bring in a relief pitcher for 1 inning. But they don't want you to be cute. They want you to blow away the hitters. So if you're giving it all instead of, going, being cautious with certain hitters, like one of the Met pitchers, and I don't remember, I think it was Bill Pulsifer told me that in the old days, the reason pitchers could go 9 was because you only had to worry about the first 4 or 5 batters, because the 6th hitter, was probably the shortstop. The 7th hitter might be the second baseman. The 8th hitter was the catcher, and then the pitcher. So you could dance around the last 4. Whereas now with the DH, you got 9 hitters you got to worry about. Yeah, so you don't really get any relief. So they stress out, which is why they don't pitch for another 2 days.
Yeah, it is a different ball game. But I can't believe this hour is almost over as usual.
Really?
Fast. But Chris got to ask you something before we wind down. So go ahead, Chris.
All right, Brian. We asked our guest this one last question before we go. If you were named MLB commissioner today, what changes would you make to the game?
I agree completely with Pete Falcone. No DH was one. No pitch clock and no runner on second base. I love 18-inning games. What could be better? Why do they want to attract a guy who's not really into the game by shortening the game like that? I love it. I mean, I remember watching when I was living in North Carolina. I guess the Mets were on TBS. I remember watching the 18-inning game, the 21-inning game, and I wasn't mad about it.
I was at the Sitting Grand Slam single playoff game.
Oh,
it was pouring, and I loved it. It was great. Yeah. All right, so that you don't want the DH, so you agree with Pete. What other things would you change?
I don't want the pitch clock, and I don't want the the runner at second base and extra innings. You got to earn your way on. I don't think it's fair because
I don't either.
One team could have the top three guys coming up and the number 9 hitter on second base, and another team could have the 7, 8, 9 hitters coming up with a runner on second base. Now, I know they're major league players, but I think that there's an disadvantage to that.
Yeah, well, yeah, listen, the ghost runner, we understand why they started it because of COVID, right? But they also, remember, they had 7-inning double headers too during COVID. All right. So of course they stopped that. So let's stop this ghost runner. I don't like the ghost runner. I mean, nobody does. It's 99%. That's people want to change that. And I just don't, it's enough already because they don't do it in the playoffs. They don't do it in the postseason. So just stop it in the regular season already. It's crazy. And the relief pitchers, that's got to drive them crazy. Thank you.
Yeah, they should put a limit on how many moves you can make with relief pitchers. Maybe 1 or 2 a week, unless it's an injury. Because the Mets were doing it every day, up and down. And a guy would pitch great, and then he's released, and they may not get him back. One other thing I would do is I would go back to American League, National League. You don't play each other until the World Series. And I also would have divisions where you have rivalries again. Mets Cubs was a big rivalry.
It was. Yeah. It was in '84. The Mets Cubs were a big rival in '84. And the Mets, listen, they're rivals in '84, '85, Cubs, Cardinals. It was great. So yeah, that too. And Chris, what do you think, Chris, about no more interleague play until the World Series?
Yeah, it definitely takes away from even the All-Star game too, right? The All-Star game is not as big anymore because of interleague play. So I agree, but now it's going to get worse though, right? Once they expand, that they're going to start messing with the divisions and so it's going to become like the NBA and the NHL is.
Well, I can tell you, Charlotte and Nashville are going to be the next 2 cities.
I think Nashville is, yeah. Yeah.
I think one of them, and then one team out west.
Do you think
I don't know where you'd go though out west. That's the thing.
Well, I know Salt Lake, and Portland. I think is the other team that's really pushing for it.
Which
I don't know
one?
about Portland. Portland.
Salt Lake City and Portland.
Yeah, it's too close.
I mean, Salt Lake City. The players aren't going to want to go there because they're not going to be able to go out and drink.
You know what?
That's pretty good. Plus, it's going to be like Colorado.
The Players Union's going to bring that up.
Yeah.
Let's not go to Salt Lake.
All right, there's a couple of quick things I wanted to bring up really fast before we go. The passing of Hall of Fame pitcher Jim Bunning. Okay, he passed away, and he's a part of Met history because he pitched a perfect game against the Mets in 1964 at Shea Stadium on Father's Day. And,
were you at the game?
Maybe in my
was that the first perfect game at Shea Stadium?
Yeah, it was the first perfect game in the National League since I forgot how many years, like at least 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so yes, that was the first.
How many? There wasn't many perfect games, right, at Shea?
No, there weren't many. I don't know. I have to look up how many, but
no Met threw perfect.
No,
games.
And I mean even the Mets first, no hitter was kind of dicey.
It was at Citi Field, and it was at Citi Field. So
right.
They never pitched a no-hit. Came close, of course. Seaver came close. Gooden came close, but they never did. So I just wanted to mention that Jim Bunning passed away. He
Didn't he
pitched
go
at
on
Philly.
to? Didn't he go on to be in politics?
Yeah, he did. He was he was either a senator or congressman. It might have been a congressman, but yes,
Okay.
that's pretty good. You are correct. And also the retirement of former Yankee and Mets relief pitcher David Robertson. He's announced his retirement. Chris, how many years did he pitch, Chris?
What would you say? 17 years, I think.
Yeah, 17 years, right? He won the World Series with the Yankees in 2009, and he made the All-Star game as a Yankee in 2011. He pitched all over the place, though, for a long time.
I thought he pitched well for the Mets. I wanted them to get him
Me
back
too.
last year.
So did I, and I don't know why they didn't. He pitched all right for when he went to Miami. The Mets traded him. He was awful, but then he pitched all right for the Texas Rangers, I believe.
Yes.
Right, Chris? Yeah.
Yeah.
He
And
I mean, I
last
hate to
year,
say
a
this,
little
but
bit
it almost seems like with Stearns, if it's not his idea, he doesn't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. It's
You
like-
know what?
You know what it is?
Go
He wants to build this team his way, right? That's
Yeah.
why I think Alonso was let go. That's why Nimmo. You know what? They could say what they want about the locker room culture. There was a problem or something like that, but I think Stearns wants to make it his team, his way. So, and he's going to win or lose with his guys, not with someone else. You know, oh, this guy was drafted before. Like, oh, I don't care. I want my guys there. So if I lose, it's on me. You know.
Well, instead of ripping him totally, I mean, he really has brought back
it's not a bad
the
thing.
minor league. The minor league prospects are really good. They got AJ Ewing, they got Christian Scott, they've got, like I said, Jonah Tong, I think will be a force within the next year, but probably not until the end of this year. And Benji.
Yeah, listen. The Mets, listen, Alonso, I wasn't happy with them not signing Alonso. I really wasn't. Diaz was not the Mets' fault. He did not want to play for the Mets because, like I said to Chris a ton of times, he didn't even let the Mets counter, and they said that they had money that they were going to counter. He was set to go to LA, and that was it. So
I agree with you, and so much disinformation on that from these talking heads, on sports talk. They're wrong. He was not coming back.
No, he wasn't. So you can't blame Stearns for Diaz because he wanted Diaz. Pete Alonso, yes. And we all wanted Pete to be a lifetime Met. We did. But listen, he's gone. There's nothing we could do about it. Like me and Chris said all the time, we got to move on. So we'll see what happens. He's building. Listen, they look a lot better than they did a month ago, right? So let's see what else is going to happen. Spring trainings, pitchers and catchers in 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens. And, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And he's going to build this team the way that he wants to build it. And
I do want to throw one last thing in. And that is that you asked me what excites me about when I get to play or meet these guys. It was really, I thought was cool. Mr. Met, the guy who plays Mr. Met, he was in the locker next to me. Gil, great guy, but he is Mr. Met year round, and he came to the Nationals camp.
Oh, he did? He came.
Yeah.
He wasn't wearing a Mets uniform, was he?
No, he was not wearing, and he didn't have the big head on either.
Okay.
And he didn't bring Mrs. Met with him.
That's cool. But anyway, all right, Brian, thank you very much. We really appreciate it, right, Chris?
Yeah, this was awesome. Thanks for giving us, give us a taste of what these fantasy camps are. I mean, because neither one of us are probably never going to go, but this was awesome.
It was.
Well, I
it was
really
great.
enjoyed it, guys. I was on the radio for many years, and like I said, on TV, and I haven't been for about 15 years, so this is kind of cool too for me.
Yeah, hey, listen, Brian, we enjoyed it, and after you do some more camps, we'll have you back. We just want to do a quick, Chris. You want to put that book up before we go? Okay, this book is great. Chief, The 3 Lives of Gene Locklear. He's a former Yankee and Padres player, okay, a Native American Indian, and this book, it's about what he went through to get to the major leagues, and he became a famous artist who had one of his paintings hanging up in the White House. He played for the Yankees in 75 and 70, in 76 and 77, I believe. And I just started the book. So when I'm done with the book, we're going to have Chief on with we're going to have him on with Dr. J. Thomas, who wrote the book. He's a great guy too. So you're going to want to definitely see that show. I'll let you know when that's coming up. Once I finish the book, we're going to have them on. Thanks, Chris, for putting that up, by the way. So far, the book is really, really good. I can't wait to finish it. So also our schedule, Monday, we'll be back at 3 p.m. It's going to be me and Chris only. It looks that way. And then next Friday night at 9 p.m., we have Super Met fan Armand coming on, and he's going to tell us everything about the Mets off season. That's going to be a lot of fun.
And the Yankees too. He always talks about the Yankees.
Oh, yeah, and the Yankees too.
I'm looking forward to talking to him.
Yeah, because if you guys have watched the show, you've seen his comments a lot, and he's very opinionated. So we're definitely looking forward. But once again, Brian, thank you. And we really appreciate it.
It was fun, guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Chris. So Chris, do you have anything else?
No, just that. Listen, thank you for everybody for tuning in tonight. We had a guy from Turkey tune in. Thank you. We appreciate it. We're located in New York. I know he asked this early. I didn't want to interrupt Brian and all of his great stories. I'm just catching up on some of these comments. The guy from Turkey, thank you for joining us. We're from New York, so if you ever want to, tune in and hang out with us and comment, you're more than welcome to. Somebody wanted to call in, but we don't do call-ins.
Yeah.
But you could any comments or any questions at all, leave them in the comment section, and we get to every single one of them. So feel free to ask questions, and we'll post them. And if you're on YouTube, hit that like button for us. We'd appreciate it. Subscribe, all that stuff. TikTok and Twitter/X. We could contact us there. And that's about it. And we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, real quick. That's another, we also have another guy from Turkey that's a regular. So that's pretty cool that we have a couple of listeners in Turkey of all places. I guess they like Mets and Yankees there. But anyway, thanks everybody. We'll see you Monday at 3 p.m.